Happy Monday, 6th grade. How y'all doing? Hope you're doing fantastic and had a restful weekend. I sure did. Let's get right back into learning about ancient Greece. And today we're going to talk about the art and architecture of the Greeks during the Golden Age. The artwork in the Golden Age of Athens and throughout Greece really flourishes during this time period. But Athens is definitely a center of it. And we're going to look at a number of ways that art really flourishes in multiple mediums, from architecture to sculpture to painting to the visual arts. We could include the dramatic arts in here and music, which we're not going to get into today. But there's every single form of art really just flourishes and really sets a lot of precedence of what artwork is going to be for Western Civ for the next 2,000 plus years. I'm not going to go as much into architecture because in a previous lesson we talked about the Parthenon and the way that why it was such a great architectural achievement. But I will get into a little bit of it, especially when we talk about columns, which is a support mechanism that the Greeks developed that is going to be really essential for building large buildings that are often really decorated and stylized. They're functional and beautiful. And we're going to talk about sculptures that are part of a wall in architecture called friezes. We're going to look at their vases and urns, which is one of their main places for painting, where they tell stories. Another place for telling stories is the mosaic, which is going to be an art form that's going to influence both the Romans and the Byzantines. And then we're going to look at some of their freestanding statues in marble and bronze. And the idea that the Greeks, in their artwork, really wanted to, especially in sculpture, be realistic, to capture motion, to capture life as it was happening, and to capture the beauty of the human form. Hence why many Greek sculptures are in the nude. When we look at columns in ancient Greece, here we see the three main ones. And it's kind of like you have the original version, 2.0, and 3.0. As they get more and more advanced over time. The Doric columns are the standard regular kind. They have a pretty flat end on top, a little bit of decoration here, but that's the main kind. Actually, you see the Doric columns in the Parthenon. The Ionic ones come from Ionia. You might remember we talked about them with the Persians, and they have that scroll shape on the top, as you see here. And in the last one, the Corinthians, you might remember Corinth is the wealthiest of the city-states, and oh my goodness, look at how decorated that sucker is. Just all sorts of like leaves and floral decor coming off the top of it. They definitely like their flourish in Corinth. When we see a typical Greek temple, we can see the columns would be in place, and you can see the capital or the top of the columns. Here you see Doric ones, and here you see Ionic ones, and you can see the different areas where things would be set. I'm not going to get into all this, but just if you want to refer back to how the general setup of it. Where I would like to talk about is this area, the pediment and the friezes. If you look, it looks like there's little people inside of these, and this is a type of artwork where it's not fully three-dimensional, but partially three-dimensional artwork, where it looks like the sculpture is coming out of the wall. Part of it is more flat to give the impression of distance. So you can see in this one, like the ones that are supposed to be closer to you are really coming out, and the people that are supposed to be further behind are like just traced it in. It gives the sensation of distance in it. Here you see the famous frieze in the pediment that was in the Parthenon in Athens, and it shows the story of Athena and Poseidon feuding with one another over who would get the name to be the patron of Athens. By the way, Athena won. She gave him the olive tree. Here's just a little bit more of an example here. You can see, the clothing and a lot of geometric patterns that the Greeks would also do within their work. Their sculptures are really impressive. Here we see one of the most famous sculptures in history, the discus thrower. This relates to the Olympics, something that we'll be talking about later on. And the fact that this has survived still intact is really impressive. We can see how they tried to realistically show the human body in as much detail as possible. You can see like the guy's rib cage, each muscle strained as he's about to throw the discus. He looks like he's about to pop right into life, into action. And that was a sensation. They wanted to create a realistic recreation of what existed in the natural world. One of the things that I learned in research is that a lot of sculptures actually weren't white back then, that many of them were colored and painted, but over time, over the thousands of years, that color has faded. But this shows what some of the sculptures in the Parthenon originally looked like during the age of the Golden Age of Athens. So you can get this sensation of what some of the artwork looked like with the colored statues. The Greeks were also fantastic, not only with cutting statues out of stone, as we see here with the marble statues, but using marble as well. Their marble reliefs are some of the best in the world and are some of the most valuable and difficult sculptures to find, because after time, a lot of the the bronze sculptures of the Greeks were melted down to be used for cannons and stuff in wars by the Ottomans and other people. So a lot of those, the famous sculptures that were made out of bronze have been lost to time. In fact, one of the reasons why we have a lot that we do is because ships that sunk during that time period carrying the statues lying at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea have been found by aquatic archaeologists and been unearthed. So that's one of the reasons why we've been able to kind of restore and see what bronze sculpture looked like. I think it's neat how they would use ivory inside of the eyes to make them look like they're staring at you. Really cool things. Again, you can see how they're trying to show the body in motion. You see here, this is showing Poseidon. He's throwing a trident. Or that might be Zeus, and he's throwing a lightning bolt. I'm sorry. And then here, this is a boxer in a break in between a match. You can see his hands are stuffed for protection, so his hands don't get beat up while he's getting beat up. Painting wise, the Greeks were one of the things that they were really known for were their decorations of pottery, in particular their story urns, which they would tell a story in pictures along the sides of the urns. So if you look here, this is actually showing the Peloponnesian War between Sparta and Athens. This one is showing the Greek myth of the Greeks warring with the women who were the warriors, the Amazon women, which is actually the basis of the whole story for Wonder Woman. How about that? A lot of comic books have their roots in Greek mythology. The mosaic is another picture form. If you look here, you can see this is a mosaic showing Medusa. And if you look, see how it's all small little blocks. Each one of these is a broken piece of tile, colored clay tile, ceramic. And then they would place them in patterns to make different shapes. Again, many of the Greek mosaics have not survived over time, but archaeologists like these in Syria are unearthing more and more Greco and Roman mosaics. The mosaics will be an art form that the Romans and the Byzantine Romans in particular will really use a lot. So, what I'd like you to do, instead of answering a question, I'd like you to create a drawing of your version of one of the styles of Greek art that we discussed and post it up on the stream. And then I'd like you to comment on at least one of your classmates' posts and give them an old good job. That's all you gotta do. Thanks a lot. Have fun. Create awesome things. I can't wait to see your masterpieces. Have a marvelous Monday.